presentation. Thank you both. And as you just said, we've now got time for a few questions. So audience, please get those coming in. As usual, use the chat box function and I will ask them on your behalf. So just to kick things off, I've got a couple myself. Gertrude, just to start with you, because it jumped out of what you were saying around saving time and things like that. I mean, we often hear quite a lot about how digital technology is going to save staff time, but it actually sounds like yours did save a lot of time, and you've got some good evidence there, which must have really helped win staff over. I would have thought. Is that fair? Was it a key driver in getting people to engage?
Thank you for the question, Steve. Yes, if you remember initially when I said that the manual audit was taking quite a long time, and it was a paper-based, and actually the staff will tick the boxes of the audit and go and place it aside and can't even remember where the document is. So it was very time consuming. It takes up to weeks and 2 weeks, but with the Tenderble app, you do the audit, it's real time, you receive the results immediately, and you can actually address the non-conformance. Definitely, it was one of the points that actually we could gain nurses and staff to do more audits because they could see the results themselves immediately. Thank you very much.
And sorry, just to stick with you because of some of the stuff you said made me think of questions as we were going. And so a second one was you mentioned some of the challenges. So naturally, I'd like to pick up on one of those, which stuck out at me was around a bit of reluctance among people to use their own devices. I think was that for authentication? I can't quite remember, but it was around being asked to use their own stuff, which we come across that in all walks of life everywhere around having to use increasingly our own phones and things as well as the equipment that we're given. I just wondered how you got around that one. Was there a solution ultimately to that particular challenge?
Thank you, Steve, for the question. Yes, there was a way around that. What we did in our facility, our IT department developed a site where the staff could just log in directly to the app. So we had the app on our devices, so you don't have to log in and go through stages of passwords. We developed that, and then staff was easily able to access the app. And actually, our company developed generic email addresses for all staff members per ward. That also made it easy for the staff to access the app. There was a solution for every challenge we had. Thank you, Steve.
No, great solution, in fact. So, Louise, turning to you, obviously you mentioned future aspirations at the end, which I think were really interesting. Just wondered if you could give a bit more detail on those, and also whether you were looking to go trust, extend to other areas of the trust, I suppose, with what you were doing.
Yeah, so for us, the advantage of it is that as new procedures come online, we can add new question sets to the audit tool, which makes it a little bit more dynamic and a bit more responsive to change. And also we sort of how we implemented it in our department, we tagged along with it being implemented across the trust. So the trust has got many audits using on the Tenderble app, but this was just us looking specifically on how we could demonstrate our compliance within radiology. So it was quite niche, and the audits that we do aren't necessarily used anywhere else across the trust, maybe in our theatre environment and that sort of thing. But we like the fact that, yes, we will be able to develop and be more dynamic in changing some of our question sets as we go forward.
Great, thank you very much. And so, yeah, audience, last chance to get your questions in, or I will. Basically, we've got about 5 minutes left, so we've got the Q&A is quite a short period anyway. I'll just give people a few more minutes to get questions in. Otherwise, I'll just warn you, Gertrude and Louise, I'll be asking you to give us a quick summary, your take-home message from the project, basically. So based on your experiences of how it's all gone, if you're advising somebody else doing something similar, what your advice might be. But I'll just give people a couple of seconds. Okay, all right. In that case, we'll move swiftly to that. Yeah, basically, can you give us a take-home message for other people out there who are either got a great innovation or idea? What did you learn? What was the one or two things that you learned from the project that you'd like to pass on? I'll start with Gertrude.
Thank you, Steve. As a nurse manager in a facility big as our hospital, Life Eugene Marais, you need to be above all processes at all time. You need to be at the forefront. You need to own the project. You need to be the ambassador. You need to be the change agent. And without that, because you are the driver of all the nurses, they are looking up to you. So you are the key person actually to ensure that a project is successful or not successful in your facility. So you have to be at the forefront all the time and embrace change. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. So leadership, basically, yeah. Louise.
Yeah, ensure that you've got your IT support in place for implementing a digital audit tool. Ensure that you've got support of your digital team. You will need other devices. We can't rely on staff to be supplying their own devices to do this kind of auditing. And just to get as many people involved as possible, not just across certain disciplines, but right across the trust in order for it to be a success.
Great, thank you, Louise. Just by chance, of course, because I moved to the wrap up, we've actually had some questions in now, so I'll quickly we'll quickly backtrack and ask them. So we've done it in a slightly wonky way round, but that's entirely my fault. So Romana Jabin wants to know, how do you champion ownership of your own quality improvement journey in your organisation? So I think Gertrude, you kind of touched on that already, but how do you actually own it, basically?
Thank you, Steve. It is very important, like Louise just said now, involve all the stakeholders. So you cannot be able to implement a project without your nurses, your team around you. So our initial process was mainly focusing on infection prevention audits. So we trained all the link nurses in each and every unit so that they own the process. So that's how we got actually ownership. They were the champion in each and every unit, followed by the unit managers and the enabling team. So you have to involve the staff as much as you can. And Wi-Fi support is actually very important, like Louisa said. And we cannot expect the staff all the time to use their own devices as well. So yeah, that is all in short what I can say. Involve your staff members, then you will see the change that needs to happen. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. And one for Louise, potentially. So Sean Perry, and the question is, did you have any pushback from your finance departments about ongoing costs of the app, or about reducing staff as you have reduced time? Good question.
I'm going to say no. But to be fair, I wasn't involved in the actual implementation part of it in our trust. But we definitely haven't had any pushback about reducing staffing. For us in our particular department, it's actually about growing those audits, not replacing them. So it's given us an opportunity to audit areas that maybe we weren't auditing before. So maybe you could argue that we've actually created more work, and we create actions from them that need to be implemented as well. So it's more about that improvement cycle and that whole improvement process, rather than reducing tasks. It actually does create some more work because you're actually identifying actions that need to be made.
Great, thank you very much. I'm glad you didn't have any pushback. That's good. Excellent. Okay, right. So thank you again to Gertrude and Louise. That was really interesting case study.